What if I told you that one of the NHL's greatest scorers is also one of its best kept secrets? We're talking about a player with 1,771 career points, 6th all time, outranking icons like Mario Lemieux and Steve Yzerman. A player with 731 goals, more than Phil Esposito and Mark Messier, and 8 100-point seasons, including an Art Ross. That player is Marcel Dionne, but when we talk about the greatest of all time, Dionne's name fades into the background. So why is that? Is it because he never lifted the Stanley Cup? Maybe it's because he spent his prime in Los Angeles, far from the hockey hotbeds of Montreal and Toronto. Or perhaps it's because he played in an era dominated by the force of nature named Wayne Gretzky. In this video, I'm taking a deep dive into the career of Marcel Dionne. It's a story of brilliance, frustration, and a legacy that's overdue for the spotlight. From his roots in rural Quebec to his record-setting nights in Los Angeles, I'm going to uncover why Marcel Dionne remains the NHL's most underrated scorer. Marcel Dionne was born on August 3, 1951 in Drummondville, Quebec, a sleepy town of about 15,000 people an hour east of Montreal. Winters were long and harsh, giving the kids a lot of time to lace up their skates on outdoor rinks and frozen ponds, where they dreamed of playing in the NHL. And Dionne was one of those kids. His father, who was a factory worker, flooded their backyard each winter to create a rink, and there, under the glow of a floodlight, Marcel fired pucks into the net until his hands were frozen. By his teens, Dionne's talent was too big for Drummondville. At 17, he joined the St. Catharines Blackhawks of the Ontario Hockey Association. In his debut season in 1968-69, he recorded 37 goals and 100 points in 48 games. But that was just a teaser. In 1969-70, he erupted for 55 goals and 132 points in just 54 games, finishing second in league scoring. Defenders couldn't catch him, and goalies couldn't stop him. At just 5'8" and 185 pounds, he was undersized, but his speed and hands were electric. His final junior year was pure dominance. In 46 games, Dionne racked up 62 goals and 143 points. That's over 3 points per game. He led the league, broke records, and turned heads across North America. One night against the Niagara Falls Flyers, he scored 4 goals and added 3 assists, leaving the crowd roaring and scouts scribbling furiously. But the season ended on a sour note. Dionne's St. Catharines Blackhawks faced Guy Lafleur's Quebec Ramparts in the George Richardson Memorial Trophy East Final, a best-of-7 series that turned violent. After splitting the first 2 games, the series shifted to Quebec City, where escalating hostility resulted in eggs, potatoes, and a knife being thrown at the Blackhawks, and one fan attacking Dionne's parents. The chaos culminated in a violent mob attacking the team bus after Game 4, with threats from the Quebec Liberation Front adding to the tension. With the Ramparts refusing to play Game 5 at a neutral location, Dionne's Blackhawks forfeited the series by refusing to return to Quebec City for Game 6, handing the East Championship to the Ramparts. The 1971 NHL draft loomed, and Dionne was a top prospect. The Red Wings, a franchise desperate for hope, picked him second overall, just behind Guy Lafleur. Dionne debuted with the Red Wings in October of 1971 against the Buffalo Sabres, picking up an assist. And by the end of the season, he'd rewritten the record book. In 78 games, he recorded 28 goals and 49 assists for 77 points, a new NHL record for a rookie. The Wings were a mess, winning just 29 games, but Dionne was the lone bright spot, winning the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year. He took a step forward in his second year, registering 40 goals and 50 assists for 90 points in 77 games, good enough for 7th in league scoring. His wrist shot became the talk of the league, with teammate Gary Bergman confirming that Marcel would stay out after practice obsessing over his shot. Dionne's numbers fell off a bit in 1973-74, with 24 goals and 78 points in 74 games, on a lousy Wings team that went 29, 39, and 10. But in 1974-75, he was unstoppable, registering 47 goals and 74 assists for 121 points, ranking 3rd in league scoring behind Phil Esposito and Bobby Orr. And with just 14 penalty minutes, he took home the Lady Byng Trophy as the league's most gentlemanly player. Unfortunately, the Wings had an even worse season, struggling to a record of 23, 45, and 12. In 4 years with the team that drafted him, Dionne registered 366 points in 309 games and had 0 playoff berths to show for it. His frustration boiled over, and he requested a trade. In June of 1975, Detroit traded him to Los Angeles. The Kings signed him to a 5-year, $1 million deal, one of the biggest contracts in the NHL at the time. For Dionne, it was a lifeline, a chance to escape the Red Wings struggles and chase glory in a new city. In 1975, the Kings played at the Forum, where they were overshadowed by the Lakers and drew modest crowds in a market that was still relatively new to hockey. But Dionne breathed new life into California's hockey scene. In his first season in LA, he registered 40 goals and 54 assists for 94 points in 80 games, leading the Kings to the playoffs. The Kings got past the Flames in the preliminary round before falling to the Bruins in a hard-fought 7-game series. In 9 playoff games, Dionne scored 6 goals and added an assist for 7 points. The next year he hit new heights, finishing the 1976-77 season with 53 goals and 69 assists for 122 points, second only to Guy Lafleur's 136 points. Dionne also took home his second straight Lady Byng trophy. The Kings made the playoffs, once again defeating the Flames in the preliminary round, before falling to the Bruins in the quarterfinals, this time in 6 games. Dionne had an outstanding postseason, recording 5 goals and 9 assists for 14 points in 9 games, but it wasn't enough to get the Kings past the Bruins. After another drop-off in 1977-78, although he still registered 36 goals and 79 points in 70 games, Dionne took his offensive production to another level in 1978-79 and never looked back. The 78-79 season saw Dionne hit new career highs in goals with 59 and points with 130, earning him the Lester B. Pearson Award as the most outstanding player as judged by his peers. The season also saw coach Bob Berry experiment with a line consisting of Dionne, Charlie Simmer, and Dave Taylor, which would come to be known as the Triple Crown line. In 1979-80, their first full season together, the line combined for over 300 points. Dionne led the way with 53 goals and 84 assists for 137 points, tying Wayne Gretzky for the league lead. His 53 goals beat Gretzky's 51, and Dionne clinched the Art Ross Trophy via the tiebreaker. The Kings finished 46-27-7, their best record yet, with Dionne taking home his second straight Pearson Award. In 1980-81, the Triple Crown line took things to another level, combining for 328 points to become the first line in NHL history where each member scored over 100 points in the same season. Dionne finished the year with 58 goals and 135 points, second to only Gretzky's 164 points. And he kept rolling the next season, finishing with 50 goals and 117 points, 7th in league scoring, but nearly 100 points behind Gretzky's insane 212-point season. Marcel Dionne never won a Stanley Cup, and had very little playoff success in general. In a league where rings crown legacies, he came up empty-handed. The Kings reached the playoffs 10 times in his 12 seasons there, but never got past the second round. He played in just 49 playoff games during his career, which is probably the biggest mark against him, and a key reason his regular season dominance has been underappreciated. In 1979-80, his Art Ross year, the Kings met the Islanders in round 1. Dionne registered 3 assists in 4 games, but the Islanders won the preliminary round series 3-1, en route to their first of 4 straight cups. In 1980-81, it was the Rangers who ousted the Kings in 4 games, with Dionne recording a goal and 3 assists. The peak of Dionne's playoff career came in the 1982 playoffs with the Miracle on Manchester. In Game 3 of the preliminary round, the Kings found themselves down 5-0 to Gretzky's Oilers after 2 periods. Dionne helped spark the biggest comeback in playoff history with 2 assists, including on the game-tying goal with just 5 seconds left in the third period. The Kings completed the comeback with a goal 2.5 minutes into overtime, and went on to upset the heavily favored Oilers in 5 games. That set up a matchup with the Canucks in round 2, where the Kings fell 4-1 in a series where 4 of the 5 games were decided by 1 goal. Dionne finished the playoffs with 7 goals and 11 points in 10 games, the most games he played in a single postseason in his career. Another thing that diminished Dionne's status was the market that he played in during his prime. Los Angeles wasn't a hockey hotbed in the 70s and 80s, with the Kings averaging roughly 10,000 fans a game. The Showtime Lakers ruled the Forum, and the Kings were a distant second. National TV didn't air many Kings games, and their 10:30 p.m. Eastern start times were too late for fans and media members out east, in the center of the hockey universe. Newspapers in Boston, Montreal, and Toronto hyped local heroes like Esposito, Sittler, and Lafleur at the expense of highlighting Dionne's dominance. Gretzky was the main attraction out west, and his rewriting of the NHL record book consistently overshadowed Dionne's 50-goal seasons and massive point totals. Even in LA, Dionne's celebrity was dwarfed by the superstars of the Showtime Lakers, with icons like Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar stealing the spotlight. The Great One arrived in the NHL in 1979 and changed hockey forever. That year, Dionne's 137 points tied him with Gretzky, and his 53 goals to Gretzky's 51 won Dionne the Art Ross. But that was the only time Dionne, or anyone else, won the Art Ross trophy over Gretzky until Mario Lemieux in 1987-88. Dionne finished second to Gretzky in points in 1980-81, 7th in 81-82, 5th in 82-83, and 4th in 84-85, and had 5 consecutive 50-plus goal seasons from 78-79 to 82-83. But it was impossible to compete with Gretzky's star power, given all the media attention the Great One commanded. Plus, Dionne was a quiet and unassuming guy who didn't seek out the spotlight. The knock on Dionne is that he was a one-dimensional player who neglected his defensive responsibilities and lacked intensity, and cared more for personal points than team success. And there is some data to support these claims. His points per game in the playoffs was 0.92, a notable drop from his 1.31 points per game in the regular season, which indicates he underperformed in high-intensity games. He also had a significant performance disparity against strong teams. A statistical analysis of his 135-point season in 1980-81 shows that he averaged 2.45 points per game and had a plus-minus rating of plus 27 against the bottom 5 teams in the league, compared to an average of 1 point per game and a minus 8 rating against the top 5 teams in the league. His 245% uptick in performance against the league's bottom feeders was massive compared to his contemporaries that season, like Gretzky, who saw an uptick of 145% against the weakest competition, and Mike Bossy with an uptick of 142%. But the criticisms of his game are definitely overstated. Pat Quinn, his coach during the mid-80s with the Kings, said, "Marcel is very much a team player. He's one of the leaders on this team. He's a very motivated person who has a very high standard of excellence for himself and for the team." And legendary coach Scotty Bowman praised Dionne as an all-around star, comparing him to other undersized superstars like Henri Richard, Dave Keon, and Stan Mikita. At just 5'8", 185 pounds, Dionne thrived as a number 1 center in an era when intimidation tactics flourished in the NHL. In order to produce at the level he did, he had to be fearless and incredibly strong to prevent defenders from pushing him off the puck. And his points per game drop off from 1.31 in the regular season to 0.92 in the playoffs has to be put into context. Unlike Gretzky, whose points per game dropped from 1.92 in the regular season to 1.84 in the playoffs, and Mario Lemieux, whose points per game dropped from 1.88 to 1.61, Dionne had far weaker supporting casts and was counted on to be the primary offensive driver. That made it easy for teams to zero in on Dionne and his Triple Crown line, whereas Edmonton had the luxury of spreading elite players like Gretzky, Messier, Anderson, Curry, and Tikkanen across multiple lines. In March of 1987, Dionne was traded to the Rangers at the age of 35. He spent his final 2.5 seasons in New York, putting up a respectable 42 goals and 98 points in 118 games. Dionne retired with 731 goals and 1,771 points, both of which ranked 6th all-time. Dionne was selected as a first-ballot Hall of Famer in 1992, and in 2017, he made the NHL's 100 Greatest Players list, with his 8 100-point seasons trailing only Gretzky and Lemieux. Dionne was key in growing the Kings fan base, setting the stage for Gretzky's arrival in 1988. Dionne's status as the NHL's most underrated scorer is the result of various factors. He never came close to winning the cup, he played for a team that was often ignored, his best seasons were overshadowed by Gretzky's dominance, and he was happy to keep a low profile. But his 731 goals and 1,771 points don't lie. He was a small-town kid who became a scoring machine, a star who led one of the most iconic lines in hockey and carried mediocre LA Kings teams to the playoffs without reward. I think it's safe to say he'd be a lot more highly regarded if he won a couple cups or spent the prime of his career in Toronto or Montreal. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more videos about hockey history.